He wasn't supposed to be important. Not today. Not ever. Kieran Hale was just another human trying to survive in the loudest, strangest place in the galaxy, the drifting market ring of Orialis Station. A place where gravity flickered, languages overlapped like static, and one wrong step could cost more than money. It could cost your life. And right now he was about to spill coffee on a creature that looked like it could legally eat him. "Careful," the vendor hissed, its translucent body rippling in irritation. Kieran jerked back, nearly slipping as the ground beneath him tilted slightly. Of course it did. Because nothing here ever stayed still. "Sorry," he muttered, gripping his cup like it was the only stable thing in existence. He hated this place. Humans weren't respected here. They were tolerated barely. Seen as fragile, unpredictable, short-lived curiosities. Easy to ignore. Easy to replace. Easy to erase. Kieran exhaled slowly and stepped away from the stall, trying to avoid eye contact with anything that had more than two eyes. Which was most things. "Just get through the day," he whispered to himself. But the universe had other plans. Because that's when he heard it. Soft giggle. Not mechanical. Not distorted. Pure. Childlike. Human but not. Kieran froze. Slowly he turned. Behind a stack of glowing cargo crates, something small peeked out at him. Two bright eyes. Curious. Unblinking. And then, she stepped forward. A little alien girl. Her skin shimmered like liquid sapphire, reflecting the neon lights of the station. Her hair, if it could even be called hair, floated like strands of glowing ember, gently moving as if underwater. She tilted her head, studying him, like he was the strange one. Kieran blinked. "Ah, hi." The girl didn't respond immediately. Instead, she walked closer, slow, deliberate steps, circling him once. Evaluating. Calculating. Then she stopped right in front of him. "You walk funny," she said. Kieran choked on air. "I what?" "You almost fall every 3 steps," she added calmly. "It's inefficient." Kieran stared at her. Of all the things he expected today, this wasn't even on the list. Yeah, he said awkwardly. "That's just a human feature." She nodded like that made perfect sense. Then she smiled. "And that's when everything went wrong. My mom likes you." Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. The noise of the market seemed to vanish for a split second. Kieran blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "My mom," the girl repeated, pointing at him like she was confirming a fact. "Likes you." His brain stalled. Completely. There were rules in places like this. Unspoken but deadly serious. You don't attract attention. You don't get noticed. And you definitely don't get singled out by an unknown alien. Especially not with something like that. "Look," Kieran said quickly, lowering his voice. "I think you've got the wrong guy." "No," she said immediately. "It's you." She stepped closer. Too close. "My mom watches people," she continued. "She says most are boring. Some are dangerous." Kieran swallowed. "And me." The girl's eyes lit up. "You're different." That wasn't comforting. "Oh. Different how?" he asked carefully. She leaned in slightly, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You're not afraid the same way others are." Kieran almost laughed. "I'm terrified right now." She shook her head. "No. Your body is scared. But your mind stays." That hit harder than it should have. Before he could respond, she grabbed his sleeve. "Come." "What?" "No, wait." But she was already pulling him. And somehow, he followed. Through the shifting crowds. Past creatures that barely acknowledged them. Down corridors that grew quieter, darker. Kieran's heart started pounding. "Hey," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Where exactly are we going?" "To meet my mom," she said casually. Of course that's where this was going. Kieran stopped walking. "Nope. That's not happening." The girl stopped too. Slowly turned. And for the first time, her expression changed. Not playful anymore. Not curious. Serious. "She already knows you're here," she said softly. A chill ran down his spine. What does that mean? The girl didn't answer. Instead, she simply pointed ahead. And that's when Kieran saw it. At the end of the corridor, a structure unlike anything else on the station. Smooth, glowing faintly with shifting patterns of light. Not built, grown, or alive. Kieran took a step back. I don't think I'm allowed in there. You are, she said. How do you know? She smiled again. Because this time, it wasn't innocent. Because she chose you. Kieran's stomach dropped. Chosen. Humans didn't get chosen. They got ignored. Sometimes eliminated. But never chosen. Look, he said, backing away slightly. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm just a guy. I don't have anything special. Yes, you do. The way she said it made him stop. No hesitation. No doubt. You stayed, she said. When everyone else ran, you stayed. Kieran frowned. What are you talking about? But before she could answer, the structure ahead reacted. The surface rippled. Like it had been waiting. Doorway. For him. Kieran felt it. That instinct. The one humans had carried for thousands of years. The one that said, you're stepping into something you don't understand. Something dangerous. Something that will change everything. He looked down at the small alien girl. Then back at the open entrance. And in that moment, he had a choice. Walk away. Or step forward into the unknown. The girl tugged his sleeve again. Don't worry, she said softly. My mom doesn't break the things she likes. Was somehow worse. Kieran took a deep breath. And stepped inside. And the second he crossed the threshold, the door closed behind him. Silently. Sealing him in. The lights dimmed. A presence filled the room. Watching. Waiting. Ancient. Powerful. And interested. Very interested. Kieran slowly lifted his gaze. And realized something that made his blood run cold. This wasn't a meeting. This wasn't coincidence. It was a test. And humanity had just been invited to play. The silence inside the structure wasn't empty. It was watching. Kieran felt it immediately. Not with his eyes. Not with his ears. But somewhere deeper. Something instinctive. Something ancient in his bones screaming that he had just stepped into the territory of a predator far beyond his understanding. The air shimmered. The walls pulsed faintly, like a living organism breathing around him. And then, voice. Human. Didn't echo. It didn't come from a direction. Simply existed. Inside his head. Kieran froze. Why yeah, he managed, his throat suddenly dry. That's me. Was. Long enough to make his heartbeat feel loud. Measured. Evaluated. You are smaller than expected. Kieran blinked. Wow. Straight to insults. Good start. A soft shift in the air followed. Not laughter. But something close. You compensate with deflection, the voice observed. Interesting. Kieran forced himself to breathe. Look, he said, trying to sound calmer than he felt. Your daughter dragged me in here and said you like me. Which, no offense, is not something humans hear right before a good day. Silence again. She is not wrong. The room brightened slightly. And for the first time, Kieran saw her. She wasn't standing. She wasn't sitting. She was present. A form shaped like a woman, but made of shifting blue light and crystalline structure, as if reality itself was struggling to define her. Elegant. Terrifying. Her eyes locked onto him, and everything inside Kieran screamed to look away. He didn't. He couldn't. Why me? He asked quietly. That was the real question. Not fear. Not survival. But why? The being moved closer, not walking, not floating, just appearing nearer. Because, she said, you did not run. Kieran frowned. I don't even know what you mean. The air shifted again. And suddenly, the room changed. Images exploded into existence around him. Fragments of memory. Marketplace. Kiss. Dreams. Kieran's breath caught. I remember this. Flesh. A large alien creature losing control. energy surging wildly, people running, stampeding, panicking, and they're frozen. Not because he was brave, not because he was strong, but because someone had fallen. A small figure. Trap. Kieran watched himself in the memory. Watched as he hesitated, then moved forward. Against logic. Against survival. Against fear. I wasn't thinking, he whispered. No, the being replied. You were. The scene slowed. Focused. You calculated risk, she continued. You understood the danger. Kieran shook his head. I just couldn't leave them. Exactly. The word echoed. Heavy. Final. The memory vanished. The room returned. And Kieran stood there, breathing harder now. That's normal, he said. Humans do that. The being tilted her head slightly. No, she said. They do not. Another shift. More images. Different worlds. Different species. Different moments of crisis. And in every one, the same pattern. Survival first. Self-preservation above all. Leaving others behind. Kieran's stomach tightened. That's not fair, he said. You're cherry-picking. Am I? The images changed again. Now showing humans. War zones. Disasters. Burning ships. Collapsing structures. And again. And again. And again. Humans running toward danger. Pulling others out. Sacrificing themselves. Choosing the impossible. Kieran stared. Silent. You are not the strongest species, she said. Not the fastest. Not the most advanced. Her eyes locked onto his again. But you are the only ones who consistently choose others over yourselves. Kieran swallowed. That gets us killed. Yes. No hesitation. No emotion. Just truth. And yet you continue. The weight of that settled heavily in his chest. The being stepped closer. Now only a few feet away. Do you understand what that makes you? Kieran shook his head slowly. No. She leaned in slightly. And for the first time, there was something in her voice. Not curiosity. Not analysis. Something deeper. Something almost like respect. It makes you unpredictable. It makes you dangerous. Kieran let out a quiet breath. Dangerous, he said. We're barely surviving out there. That is precisely why. The room darkened slightly. You evolve through pressure. Through loss. Through failure. Her voice lowered. Other species avoid pain. You adapt to it. Kieran didn't respond. Because he couldn't. Because part of him knew. She wasn't wrong. You fall, she continued. You break. You suffer. You stand again. Her gaze sharpened. And that terrifies the galaxy. Silence filled the space. Heavy. Unavoidable. Kieran looked down at his hands. Shaking slightly. So what? He said quietly. This is some kind of evaluation. Yes. That word hit harder than anything else. And the result? He asked. Another pause. Longer this time. More intense. The step. Like. The little girl. She appeared beside him again. Smiling like none of this was terrifying. My mom already decided, she said happily. Kieran looked at her. Then back at the being. What did you decide? He asked. The room seemed to hold its breath. And then. You are worth the risk. Kieran's heart skipped. Risk, he repeated. Her eyes didn't leave his. Bringing humanity into what comes next. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. What comes next? For the first time. The being turned away. And the walls around them shifted again. But this time. What appeared wasn't memory. It was something else. Dark. Massive. Moving. Something out there. Something coming. Something that made everything Kieran had seen so far feel small. His voice dropped to a whisper. What is that? The being's answer was quiet. But it carried weight. The reason your kind was finally noticed. Kieran felt fear rise again. Stronger this time. Because this wasn't about him anymore. This was bigger. much bigger. And you think we can help? He asked. The being looked back at him. Not help. Was. Survive. The word echoed in his mind. Cold. Final. And for the first time since stepping inside, Kieran realized the truth. This wasn't about being chosen. This wasn't about being special. It was about war. And humanity had just been invited to stand on the front line. Kieran couldn't look away. The thing in the void moved again. Low. Massive. Unnatural. It didn't glide like a ship. It consumed space as it advanced, warping the stars around it like they were reflections on broken glass. What is it? Kieran whispered. The alien being's voice came, quieter now. An extinction force. Kieran's chest tightened. That's not a real answer. It is the only one that matters. The walls shifted again, this time showing fleets. Hundreds of alien ships. Advanced. Powerful. United. And then. Erased. Not destroyed in battle. Not defeated. Just gone. Like they had never existed. Kieran felt something cold settle in his stomach. You fought it. Yes. And lost. Was. We delayed it. That was worse. Much worse. Kieran ran a hand through his hair, pacing now. Okay. So you've got galaxy-level civilizations getting wiped out. And your solution is, what? Humans. He let out a dry laugh. That's a terrible plan. The little girl frowned slightly. My mom doesn't make bad plans. Kieran crouched to her level, softer now. I'm sure she doesn't, but we're not soldiers like this. We're not built for cosmic horror. The room went silent. You are wrong. Kieran slowly stood. The being stepped forward again, her presence stronger now. You believe strength is measured in power, she said. In weapons. In scale. Her eyes burned brighter. But you misunderstand your own species. The walls changed again. Earth. Human history. Wars. Disasters. Moments of absolute collapse. Cities burning. People falling. Everything breaking. Kieran looked away slightly. We're not proud of that, he muttered. You should be. That made him snap his head back. What? You endure what others cannot. The images sped up. Humans rebuilding. Surviving. Adapting. Fighting again. You do not stop, she continued. Even when logic demands surrender. Kieran's voice hardened. Yeah. And sometimes that just means we die slower. The being stepped even closer. Now her presence felt overwhelming. No, she said. It means you learn faster. Silence. The vision shifted again. But this time, it wasn't the past. It was the future. Human ships. Crude compared to alien fleets. Smaller. Less advanced. But different. Moving unpredictably. Splitting. Reforming. Sacrificing pieces to win time. Kieran stared. That's us. Yes. Another scene. Humans luring the entity. Baiting it. Studying it. Not matching its strength. But forcing it to react. To adapt. To make mistakes. Kieran's breathing slowed. They're not fighting it head-on. No, she said. They are doing what your kind does best. Was. Turning survival into strategy. The realization hit him. Hard. You're not asking us to win, he said quietly. You're asking us to outlast it. The being didn't answer. Because she didn't need to. Kieran laughed under his breath. A mix of fear and disbelief. That's insane. Yes. Another pause. Will you do it? That question hung in the air. Heavy. Unavoidable. Kieran looked at the girl. At her small, hopeful face. At the being ancient, powerful, and uncertain. And for the first time, he understood something. They weren't choosing humans because they were strong. They were choosing them. Because they had no other choice. Kieran exhaled slowly. You're scared, he said. The being didn't react. But the silence confirmed it. Everyone else tried to fight it your way, he continued. And they failed. His voice steadied. So now you're gambling on the species that refuses to play fair. The girl smiled. Exactly. Kieran closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them. Different now. Resolved. All right, he said. Let's say we do this. He stepped forward. What happens next? The room brightened. The stars beyond shifted. And the being spoke. You return to your people. You prepare them. You change what must be changed. Kieran frowned. You really think they'll listen to me? No. That answer came instantly. They will resist. Deny. Fear. Then why me? The being's gaze softened, just slightly. Because you will not stop. That hit deeper than anything else. Kieran let out a quiet breath. Yeah, that sounds like us. The girl floated up beside him, grabbing his arm. You'll come back, right? Kieran looked at her, smiled faintly. Yeah, he said. I think I have to. The being raised a hand. The doorway behind him reformed, opening once more. But understand this, human, she said. This path does not end in victory. Kieran paused. Then what does it end in? A long silence. Survival or silence? Kieran nodded slowly. Good enough. He turned, stepped toward the exit. But just before leaving, he stopped, glanced back. One more thing, he said. The being watched him. If we pull this off. A small grin formed on his face. You owe us one. For the first time, the ancient entity smiled. And it wasn't small. Humanity will not need favors, she said. They will take their place. Kieran chuckled. Yeah, that sounds more like us. And then, he stepped out, back into the chaos of the station. But everything felt different now. The noise, the movement, the life, all of it fragile, all of it at risk. He looked up at the stars beyond the station's glass. Somewhere out there, something was coming, something unstoppable, something that had already defeated civilizations far greater than his own. Kieran clenched his fist. Wrong galaxy, he muttered, because humanity had one rule, one unbreakable instinct. When faced with the impossible, they didn't surrender. They didn't accept extinction. They adapted. They fought. They survived. No matter the cost. And this time, the entire galaxy was about to learn why that made humans the most dangerous species of all.